What's up, everybody? OMV of Ulu Run Productions. Hey, look, I appreciate y'all subscribing to the channel. Do subscribe if you're not subscribed and hit the bell icon so you can be notified for future videos. Hey, look, I took a trip a couple weeks ago, and I must admit, the life-changing thing, man. You know what I'm saying? It's real. It's real talk, real deal. That's why there's been this hiatus, because I had travel out there. You know what I'm saying? But I'm going again this week, and this time I'm making a video. Stuff that y'all scared of. You know what I'm saying? That boogeyman stuff. Boo. But anyway, this story here it bugged me out when I first heard it. I was like, okay. And then I got into it. I'm like, wow. A black man who was enslaved by his white boss for 5 years should be given $546,000 in compensation, or court ruled. An intellectually disabled man who was enslaved by a restaurant owner in South Carolina for 5 years should be awarded $546,000, a court ruled. I just read that. In 2019, now this is an old story, y'all, but there's another story that I wanted to pop up, but I didn't, and I'll just tell you about it. You know what I'm saying? And it'll have something to do with this. Well, not do with this, but it pertains to this. If you know this kind of stuff. In 2019, Bobby Paul Edwards, who owned the J&J cafeteria in Conway, and I should put it up somewhere right there, pleaded guilty to 1 count of forced labor for coercing an African American, which I'm not using them terms no more, and an indigenous man with an intellectual disability to work extensive hours at a restaurant for no pay, and was sentenced to 10 years in prison, the Justice Department said in a press release at the time. Now check this out. As the settlement, Edwards was also ordered to pay back John Christopher Smith $273,000 in unpaid wages and overtime compensation. Edwards forced Smith to work over 100 hours a week without pay. Yo, can you imagine that, B? I was working 40 hours a week and feeling it. This dude was working over 100? And he's mentally challenged. But anyway, Edwards forced Smith to work over 100 hours a week without pay. He would also beat him with a belt, fist, and pots and pans. Yo, this 2019, y'all. Hold on, 2019. On April 21st, 2020, the Court of Appeals for the Fourth Circuit ruled that Smith was entitled to double the amount, which would be $546,000. I got something to say about that. The court said the district court did not properly account for federal labor laws when it made the decision on compensation. Agreed right there. Minimum wages and overtime compensation must be paid on a current basis as work is done, such that an employee receives the prescribed compensation without delay. When an employer fails to pay those amounts, the employee suffers losses, which includes the loss of the use of that money during the period of delay, the court argued in its filing. And I think that's about it for this. Yeah. Now, here's one thing I got to say about that. Like when they said overtime compensation and all of that, yo, 546,000, that ain't enough, B, if you ask me, because each year stuff went up. The minimum wage went up, you know what I'm saying? And then when you got to do time and a half when it comes to overtime, you know what I'm saying? So maybe they did that with the overall thing, but y'all can't get away with that. I couldn't be this dude's lawyer because I'd be like, hold on, what about pain and suffering? He was all it says. Edwards forced Smith to work over 100 hours a week without pay. He would also beat him with a belt, fist, pots, and pans. Yo, that's pain and suffering. He already got a mental issue. You know what I'm saying? And then you do all of that, you giving him even more mental issues. You know what I'm saying? Beating the stuff into him. You know what I'm saying? And that stuff has a psychological effect. He's already psychologically affected. You don't need to exacerbate that anymore. I think he should take them out of business. You know what I'm saying? Personally, if I was his peoples, I'm like, man, go go for the gusto. You know what I'm saying? This man was disabled mentally. You know what I mean? But there was another case that went on that I feel that I'm gonna link these two together because it makes sense to me. I mean, not the cases itself, but this situation about to pop up. There was a man last year in DC who was in his car. No, my bad. It was a woman who was in her car. No, it was a man. My bad. Man was in his car, and he said that he felt he told the police that he felt threatened by them several times. He's like, "Look, I'm afraid for my life." So I guess he was scared to open up the door or something because he thought they was gonna shoot him or whatever. And one of the cops reached in, opened up the door, and yanked him by his head. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, well, god dang, you had to do all of that. All you had to do is say, yo, such as, yeah, I ain't gonna do nothing to you, man. It ain't even like that. He ain't shooting you or nothing like that. It's just a routine check, y'all, whatever. But instead, you get the man out there, and then they said also he had his hands on the he had his hands on the steering wheel, and I mean not on the steering wheel, on the car, and the officer grabbed him by his head. You know what I'm saying? It's like, yo. And then they also did this to women. Some other woman, so I believe it was in Georgia, but they do this a lot, and they doing this with people with dreads. You know what I'm saying? I guess you remind them of the predator or something. They scared of you. You know what I mean? Petrified. You know, I mean, I don't know. To us, it's natural. We used to seeing that. To them, they not. Not so many of y'all. Mm-mm. Oops. And then they feed them a lot of that nonsense on TV where you dudes like to make these videos with you thugging out, with you shooting, with you toting guns, with you acting wild. You putting even more fear in their heart. You know what I'm saying? So what you think gonna happen when they get around you and you all thugged out? Now, I'm not saying that's the case for this guy here, but it puts an overall fear in their mind that they already have about us as black people. You know what I'm saying? As indigenous people, because they know what we really are. You know what I'm saying? That's why they're afraid of you. All the animals of the earth will be afraid of you, even them. But anyway, so with that case that I'm talking about, that case wasn't nationally reported. It said it in that article. It said in that article, it said, you know what? The reason why this case didn't get a whole lot of attention, because it didn't get reported to anybody. The guy who got his hair pulled didn't report that to the news. Nobody reported it. It was just like, okay, well, it's over with. Let's go on about our business. We left with our lives. You know what I'm saying? That's how a lot of people think. You know, you'll be surprised. Look, I made it out alive. Leave it alone. Let's keep going. You know what I'm saying? And then there's a lot of stuff that get done that just don't get reported. Only people that know about it is the people in the neighborhood. You can hear them talk. You can go in any neighborhood, where there's indigenous people at the hood, go in any hood in the United States, and I bet you they could tell you a bunch of stories about stuff that happened around there with law enforcement that nobody ever knew. More than likely it happened yesterday. You didn't know because ain't nobody reported. Even with the advent of the internet. You know what I'm saying? Granted, we're getting more. It seems like it's a lot now. They're like, man, this has been going on since the police was created. It was created for you indigenous people. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, come on. You know, so I mean, I'm just saying, y'all. So that's how I correlate the two. By things not getting reported. And you know, it's so much going on, man. It's so much that doesn't happen. And you know, with law enforcement, without law enforcement, you know what I'm saying? Stuff that just go on in the neighborhood. This stuff don't get reported. You know, they had a shooting at a club just Saturday over here. You know what I'm saying? I mean, they found a body out there You know, so it's like, did you know about that? No, I just told you though. You see what I'm saying? Anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because, I feel like there's this big misconception about the the relationship between us indigenous people and white people. There's been a misconception here. They have never been these benevolent people who were just nice to us. There's always something covert going on constantly. And they do this stuff in the workplace all the time. That's why they don't like dudes like me. And that's why every job I had, when they tried to pull that racist crap on me, I pulled a card. And guess what I was called? I was called insubordinate. But you didn't fire me though. Matter of fact, they got intimidated because I showed them that I have intelligence. I know y'all little laws, and you're not getting away with that. And I would tell them that. And they would be like, put it like this. Whenever you come to work and the person who's supposed to quote unquote be the boss gets out and goes in her office when you come in there like you her boss, that mean that you did your damn thing. You know what I'm saying? Because I refuse to let these folks come at me like that. I don't give a damn how covert your racism is. You know what I'm saying? I see it and I'm gonna call it in front of everybody. And it's even better now. But anyway, OMB signing out. Peace.